Betmaker Show. This is the horse racing picks preview for the Apple Blossom Handicap, Race 10 at Oaklawn Park that runs on Saturday, April 18th, 2020. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Betmaker Show, Brian Blessing.
All right, folks, talking horses here at betmaker.com. Brian Blessing in Las Vegas. And we got a real dandy, a marquee race. You know, we're only a handful of tracks are running in North America due to the COVID-19 deal. But it's one of the big races of the year that will be contested at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. It's going to be race 10, and it is the Grade 1 Apple Blossom Stakes. This is one of the big races for the best fillies and mares on the globe. And it's a full field of 14, and it is chock full of talent. But I think it's actually a really good betting race. And the cool thing about a race like this, I mean, you can make a case for a lot of runners because there's just so much back class across the board. So, again, it kind of, like any horse race, comes down to current form and that ability to read between the lines and try to close your eyes and envision a pace structure, blah, blah, blah. Pace makes the race. But in this race, I think it's really true. It's 1 1/16 in distance. The purse is 600,000 potatoes. And I think there's some real cool opportunities in here. I'm going to start with the number 4 horse, Come Dancing, who's 3-1. And I'm going to do it. I think I may throw the horse completely out. And that's when you get that ability to really make a score, when you can take a stand against a horse in a race. And this filly, she's the daughter of Malibu Moon. Wayne Lucas, legendary trainer with Florent Giroux aboard, who's an exceptional rider, big money rider. This horse is a rocket sled. Now, has gotten the distance before, 2 career races with a win and a runner-up finish in those 2 races. But in those races, the best buyer figure was a 97. And for argument's sake, she's capable of ratcheting up some big numbers. In sprint races, her top buyer is a 114. I think there are distance limitations here. Is the point. I mean, this is one with lightning speed and a dose of versatility, can sit just off the pace. But because she's kind of a sprint specialist, and her last race was the Breeders' Cup Sprint, by the way, and she went off at 2-1 in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. The Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, which is basically an elongated sprint. It was a 7-furlong race. And she didn't fire that day, and that's okay. All these horses have bad days. But her best races are at 6.5 and 7 furlongs. And you're asking her to go 9 panels today. It's not her preferred distance. But I think she is going to absolutely light up the fractions on the front end with another runner you got to take a long, hard look at, and that is Serengeti Empress, who's 4-1, the number 11. And Joe Talamo, jockey for trainer Tom Amos here. Well, listen, this miss is the real deal. She's a 4-year-old filly, and she bled through Lasix last year, and things weren't looking good. Well, lo and behold, she wins the biggest race there is for a 3-year-old filly. She won the Kentucky Oaks, got to the front, and never looked back. And then after that, it came back with some really big races, and she's throwing faster figures up now than she did as a 3-year-old. In fact, her last race was her best race, and it was actually on a wet track. And now, I will throw the caveat out here. If this race comes up on a sloppy track, I love Serengeti Empress, because her last race was the Grade 2 Azeri on this track. She's 1-for-1 on the track, got to the front under wraps, and put up 101 buyer figure, her best by a mile. And it was also her only career race in the wet. So she clearly relishes the slop. If there's moisture in the track, Serengeti Empress would probably be my top pick. That the funny thing is, and you look at the company she's been keeping, all grade 1s, grade 2s. This is her third race off the shelf, which is usually when a horse fires its best shot in as good a shape as they're going to be in a form cycle. So I think Serengeti Empress, the 11, is going to be a handful. But basically, she is a need-to-lead type. And the number 4, Come Dancing, is going to be competing and probably send on the front end. From the post position, I'd rather see a horse pinned on the rail, and I think it's advantage Serengeti Empress to pin the 4 Come Dancing on the rail. And I'm of the belief Come Dancing, I'm taking a stand, could be wrong, but I'm of the belief her being in a ding-dong battle on the front end and pinned on the inside, I think Come Dancing could pack it in.
Let's make some money tonight.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website at betmaker.com. So, and there's other speed in the race. I mean, there's a lot of speed in this race. Those 2 of their own accord that I just mentioned are going to really make this a battle on the front end to set it up for a stalk. But the number 10, Cookie Dough, has speed. I think you could see possibly some speed from the 13 Lady Out. I just think there's going to be a massive race for the first corner to get to the front end. The fastest of the fast, I still believe, are Come Dancing and Serengeti Empress. But there's other speed in here to the point where if somebody, a longer shot, goes to the front and these other 2, Come Dancing and Serengeti Empress, don't want to get cooked in a battle with a horse they don't think has a shot, then all of a sudden you're taking them away from their preferred running style, which doesn't help their cause either. But on the premise that Serengeti Empress gets the lead, I think the horse who's my top selection in the race is all the way on the far outside, the number 14, CC, and this is trained by Mike McCarthy. It's a daughter of Elusive Quality, and she's really maybe the most lightly raced runner in this race. She is coming off her best effort by a good margin, winning the Grade 1 Beholder Mile at Santa Anita Park, and now they ship in here. But it's the running style and the upside that I'm looking at. These 2 races in her 4-year-old campaign, won by 4 1/4 lengths, 3 1/4 lengths. And what I really love, too, and it's great to see him back because he had a real serious injury, Victor Espinosa's coming in with the mount here, and he's a money rider. He's a terrific rider in learning. And you honestly got to take a step forward here because you're jumping into a real deep end of the pool against the best fillies and mares that are out there. But I think CC's kind of the now horse with a running style that could, from the far outside, which could be a detriment, but by the time they get into the first turn, I can see Espinosa gliding in, and it could get floated. Now, I mean, CC could lose the race in the first turn if she gets floated 5 or 6 wide. That's when a jockey like Espinosa comes into play here. I think he'll be able to ease over, and he may be 2 or 3 wide going into the first turn, but I don't see her being more than 4 lengths off the pace, and that's not a problem because she's shown that ability to stalk and pounce. And I do believe if Espinosa works out a trip, by the time they get to the top of the stretch, CC will get first run at the pace setters, and I think CC will have the lead at the 16th pole, and then it's just a question of can she hold off the closers. Now, everybody has a horse they're fond of or one that always sticks a fork in them. The funny thing is, go back to the Kentucky Oaks last year that we said Serengeti Empress won. The horse I played that day was Street Band, and she just never fired that day. Well, I really just thought there was so much upside for this filly, for trainer Larry Jones, who specializes with fillies and on the big stage. And she has a filly aboard. Sophie Doyle's the jockey. And sure enough, come back last fall and won the Grade 1 Cotillion at Parks and ran that race I know she was capable of. She's since come back, ran a big race at Sam Houston Park and just missed to Lady Apple, who's also in this race. And I just think this horse could be sitting on a big run, and the running style with the speed that we believe that's in play here, I'm convinced Street Band at 15-1, the 6 has a real shot to be part of the exotics. In fact, I'm going to take a flyer with this one to be in the runner-up spot, which would be a really nice exacta. CC the 14 over the 6 Street Band. I do think Serengeti Empress is the speed of the speed, has the staying power, and will be part of it. And then to round it out, the other that I think has a sneaky shot to run a monster race is the number 5 Point of Honor. And this is another, for the most part, lightly raced filly, 7 races, 3 wins, 3 seconds. Just, ran a runner-up race at Tampa Bay at a 7-furlong event. I bet I'm literally just going on the premise. Yeah, sure, they wanted to cash the ticket that day, but I think that was a workout, floating and pointing towards this race. And I think there's a lot of upside here. She was the runner-up in the Grade 1 Alabama, won the Black-Eyed Susans last year on Preakness Day, or Preakness weekend. I think Point of Honor sitting on an improved race. 10-1 is the morning line. And it's funny, like Street Band's 15-1 has run occasionally better races than her, but Street Band's inconsistent and it's 15-1. This one, the odds maker, the morning line guy, is pretty sharp here because I think this is all based on the potential upside. And I think that morning line almost is telling you something. And Drayden Van Dyke's getting them out for trainer George Weaver. And this one has a closing kick that I think comes racing up and is part of the exotic. So it's amazing when you're doing the handicap of a race. I'm taking a stand against the 4, Come Dancing. And I could live to regret it. But if I'm right, I'm sitting on a nice number here. And I know there's tons of speed. Come Dancing could go wire to wire, but it's not her preferred distance. And I think CC gets first run and gets it done. I think Street Band, Serengeti Empress, and Point of Honor are the ones that round it out. From a numbers perspective, I like the 4. I'm going to do a trifecta. I'm going to key the 14 first over the 5, 6, 11. In order, the 6, 11, 5, to be honest with you, because I think Street Band can run second. Then I'm also going to put CC in the second hole. So I play a trifecta, 6, 11, 5 with the 14 second, with the 6, 11, 5 again, third. So and that's a $12 bet for $1. And believe me, if Come Dancing runs out, you're looking at probably a trifecta that at the least is about $400. So, and if CC ran second to either Street Band or Point of Honor, it maybe could even be higher. Well, it would be higher, but it could be $600, $700, $800. So, when the funny thing is there's some common crossover frame of references in this race, horses that have run against each other in the past. But this is also, don't forget now, a unique set of circumstances where Santa Anita's not running. And, the Apple Blossom's a great race. But there are probably horses running in this race that would have just stayed home or elsewhere to run for big money on their home circuit. But now all of a sudden you're getting some invaders coming in here because only so many tracks are running. So this becomes a really interesting race, trying to put the Rubik's Cube together with a field of 14. And just a lot of the kind of things you can look at. You got to look at the connections, the human connections, horses for courses, who likes the track. Again, if it's raining, I'll throw this out there. If there's moisture in the track, I'm going to, you got to be flexible. Serengeti Empress, the 11, would be my top pick if the track comes up wet. If it's a fast track, I think CC is absolutely the one I'm going to be playing here. And I wouldn't preclude CC's chances on a wet track either, because she's never won on run. But we have seen Serengeti Empress be a freak show in the wet, and I think it's something you can count on. But it's a very interesting race. It's a big money race, and we're holding out hope that we get all these tracks up. Summer racing and the unique set of circumstances with the Triple Crown coming up in the fall. Crazy set of circumstances that we're all dealing with on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, horse racing could end up being a winner, because I think a lot of people are at least sampling what the sport has to offer, and to the point where it may win some people over, where they play the sport occasionally, even when baseball, hockey, basketball, and football return. We'll see if that actually ends up happening. But rest assured, I think a lot of people will be focused on this race on Saturday.
Let's
Well, that's the Betmaker Show for now. We publish multiple times each week. We'd like to thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, or subscribe to our show feed, or share our show with a friend or two and help us grow the show. We very much appreciate it. Visit us on the web at betmaker.com. And reminder to sign up for the newsletter. Thanks to our engineer, Darren Vandermolen, and producer, Mike Gallivan. The Betmaker Show is a production of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated. Betmaker is a registered trademark. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this content without the express written consent of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated is strictly prohibited.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At Betmaker.com and the Betmaker Show, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling, an approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.